trying to teach from a state of isolation. If it's not good, just use your imagination. Remember, rapping's not my occupation. Mr. Captain giving you an education. Yeah? Right? Right? I think so.
Let's talk about historical globalization and motivations for imperialism. And let's start with a brief history lesson. The Middle Ages were in the years 500 to 1200 AD. Picture a time of castles and knights, kings and queens, Western Europe divided into feudal states. That's what we're talking about in the Middle Ages. And then follow that up with the Renaissance, a period of rebirth of learning and the arts. Look at those handsome gentlemen up there. The works of Italian artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and the English dramatist William Shakespeare represent the cultural height of the Renaissance. The Reformation is also a part of this, more so for religious reform that led to the founding of Protestant churches. We'll talk more about this at another point. Cowabunga! The monarchs of Europe financed voyages around the world during a period called exploration and colonization. This is what we're going to focus on a lot in this unit. It's the period characterized by exploration, people trying to find spices and converts to Christianity, European explorers making long sea journeys, exploring different cultures in the Caribbean islands and South America. We've talked a little bit about cultural contact and cultural exchange. That's a big part of this time period. So we just did a little bit of history, okay? But now we're gonna go way back even before that, or something that began even before that, called the Silk Road. The Silk Road was an ancient network of trade routes formerly established during the Han Dynasty of China, which linked the regions of the ancient world in commerce between 130 BCE and 1453 AD. So if you've been paying attention to dates, this started even before the Middle Ages. This map shows what people commonly refer to as the Silk Road, the trade routes on land, as depicted by red, and appropriately by blue for sea trade routes, if you didn't get that. Pretty impressive. That distance is massive. The European explorer Marco Polo traveled on these routes and described them in depth in his famous work, but he's not credited by naming them. Both terms for this network of roads were coined by the German geographer and traveler Ferdinand von Richthofen in 1877 CE, who designated them Seidenstraße, Silk Road, or Seidenstraßen, Silk Routes. Polo, and later von Richthofen, make mention of the goods which were transported back and forth on the Silk Road. From west to east, so from Europe out east to Asia, they traded things like on this list. We've got horses and horse-related stuff, grapes and grapevines, animals, furs, honey, fruit, glassware, wool, gold, silver, camels, slaves, yes, slaves, weapons, and armor. And from east to west, what they were trading was silk, tea, dyes, precious stones, china, not talking about the actual country, but the plates, bowls, cups, and vases, porcelain, spices, bronze and gold artifacts, medicine, perfumes, ivory, rice, paper, and gunpowder. The network was used regularly from 130 BCE, when the Han officially opened trade with the West, to 1453 BCE, CE, when the Ottoman Empire boycotted trade with the West and closed the routes. By this time, Europeans had become used to the goods from the East, and when the Silk Road closed, merchants needed to find new trade routes to meet the demand for these goods. What do you think Europe does next? If you guessed explore west, then maybe you can tell me who this guy is. If you said Christopher Columbus, you're correct. What I'd like you to do next is read a couple articles about Christopher Columbus, and then we'll talk about what is he? Is he a hero or a villain? Yet another story of cultural contact and ethnocentrism.
Mr. Captain giving you an education.